多謝各位，我哋而家夠人亦。
It's time and we have a quorum. Today we have 3 items on the agenda. First of all, let's invite the administration in. For the first item, we will look at HEAD 711 project number B446RO, District Open Space Adjoining Sample Kong Public Housing Development. And the paper has been circulated, and the administration will walk us through the paper.
出席嘅官員呢個名單已經喺大家嘅座位上。
The attendance list has been tabled, so I won't read their names one by one. And it seems we have a Mr. Wong Kwok Heng here. The attendance list has been tabled.
OK， 咁係咪副處長可以幫我哋介紹文件？
Deputy Director, will you walk us through the paper? Good afternoon. Today, we will discuss the upgrading of Public Works Program number B446RO to Category A. And for the district open space, we suggest providing hard and soft landscaping, sitting out areas, a children's play area, elderly fitness area, a pebble walking trail, a jogging track, leisure lawn, and a pet corner. And we will also reprovision an existing 7-a-side hard surface soccer pitch and 4 existing basketball courts, and the provision of ancillary facilities including car park facilities, toilets and changing rooms, a service jet, a storeroom, and a garden waste chamber. And we have King Tai Estate adjoining the proposed DOS with a population of about 2.46 thousand, and its intake commenced in June. And the 7-a-side football pitch and 4 basketball courts can facilitate the continued development of soccer and basketball training and competition. And on the 13th of March and 3rd of July 2012, we consulted the Wong Tai Sin District Council, and on the 7th of August 2012 and 21st of February 2017, we consulted the Housing Committee of the Wong Tai Sin District Council, and members supported the project. And the District Council and stakeholders had 3 major areas of use. And first, avoiding light pollution at the sports field. So we requested the department to review the angle of the lighting. And 2, there are concerns that the fencing will block out the natural lighting and conceal the venue. In the future, there won't be any fences. We will use planters and landscaping. And number 3, there are suggestions that the jogging track should be circular, and the remaining areas can be used by other people. We felt that the venue is rather narrow. We have already proposed a jogging track which goes both ways. And at money of the day prices, the estimated capital cost is $325.6 million. And for the construction works at St. May Street, it will be commenced in the first quarter of next year. And this would align with the schedule for building the road and crossing by the CEDD. The completion of major portion will complete by the second quarter of 2020. As for the landscaped walkway, or the elevated landscape walkway, will be completed by the first quarter of 2021. With members' support, by the fourth quarter of this year, we will submit this proposal to the Electrical Public Works Subcommittee as well as the Finance Committee. Members are invited to provide views. Thank you. I'd like to remind members that if members have any direct or indirect pecuniary interests, please disclose the nature of such interests before you speak according to Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure. Please also note the voting arrangement in case of direct pecuniary interests according to Rule 84. A show of hands, please, if you wish to speak. 4 minutes each. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, Mr. Poon Siu-ping, and Mr. Wilson All. Thank you. I agree with the objective of providing district open space, and that is a promise to the residents of King Tai Court. But you will face a number of potential issues. For example, for the Kai Tak East Sports Stadium, would there be any upgrades or enhancement? The sports stadium has been in place for quite a number of years, and are you going to enhance this as well together with this project? Will the LCSD have any enhancement works? For Look Up Street, St. May Street, and King Fook Street, these will be crucial roads linking the Kai Tak development area. At St. May Street, would the red or blue section be the underpass? Would the red section be the underpass connecting to the Kai Tak development area? What about the area in blue? We understood that at St. May Street there would be an underpass connecting to the Kai Tak development area, but at St. May Street, Look Up Street, or the other roads, apparently there are no plans to increase their capacity. So I'd like to know about the road connectivity with Kai Tak development area. This is an important link road, and for Choi Hong Road, there will be plans to widen it in the future. So did HA consider such issues relating to road network? And have you considered the potential burden on traffic due to these works? The part in blue denotes the elevated walkway, as I said, and the walkway will lead to the Kai Tak development area. As for plans to improve the open space facilities, I would invite Ms. Fogg to give more.
Regarding the facilities at the sports stadium at East Kai Tak, is not included within this project. The outside the stadium at East Kai Tak, there will be a soccer pitch and 4 basketball courts, and there will be a period of time during which they need to be closed for renovation. During the process, the East Kai Tak Sports Stadium will need to be open for members of the public to enjoy the recreational facilities there. So it's not therefore included in this project. Of course, for the sports facilities managed by the LCSD, for those facilities which are old, we will carry out improvement measures in a timely manner. So if you have plans, if you have such plans, I understand that you need to do it in stages. Well, I hope you will be able to do it so that you won't end up with, very good facilities on one side and inadequate facilities on the other side. and also have you earmark space for expansion. Regarding the roads, I'll ask our architect to answer the question. The red section would be a vehicular tunnel. It is going to be built by the CEDD. It's about to be completed. The blue section is the elevated pedestrian walkway, and both will connect with the Kai-Tak development area. Members also refer to the same main street, the blue next to the blue section. This is a new road, which is now under construction by the CEDD. So after they've completed the road project, only after its completion will we develop the open space. So therefore, it won't be affected. Next, Dr. Pan Siu Ping. Thank you. Providing more open space to tie in with the population increase, especially the provision of a better environment for young people and the elderly, deserves our support. According to the paper, King Tai Court, intake for King Tai Court already started this year. And regarding these facilities, you already consulted Wong Tai District Council in 2012. So my question is that this project will only be completed in 2020, which is 4 years away. Why does it take so long for you to confirm this project? Regarding the provisioning of the 7-a-side soccer pitch and the 4 basketball courts, I understand that these facilities are being used already at the moment. So could you expedite the reprovisioning of these facilities? Have you, carried out any assessments in order to minimize the impact? Well, thank you for the question. Regarding our timetable, when I made the PowerPoint presentation, I already explained this. So regarding the timetable for the project, we're only able to start the works now because the timetable for the construction of the roads and the subways will need to be completed. We need to complete those before we can move on to the site to build the open space. So the completion will be scheduled for the second quarter of 2020, and the remaining minor portions of the works will have to wait until the first quarter of 2021, when the construction of the elevated landscape walkway is completed. As for, I'll ask Mr. Wong Kok Hing to also answer the question regarding the other question. Now, for the whole project, I must clarify that it doesn't take 4 years. For the majority of the work, they will be completed in the first quarter of 2018, and there will still be a small portion of the work that is the part that is blue on the plan. They will only be completed after the completion of the pedestrian walkway. So the majority works will be completed in 2018 and not 2020. Regarding the reprovisioning of the basketball courts and the soccer pitch, the site is very small, and we need to demolish the toilets and the changing rooms, and again we need to reconstruct the car parks. So the ancillary facilities for the football and basketball courts and pitches we need to demolish the old structures before we can make the reprovision. So during the 20-odd period, that will be the time for the works to be carried out. During the time when these facilities are not available for use, there is also, football courts and basketball football pitches and basketball courts along Choi Hong Road. Now, for these works, of course, you need to tie in. These will need to tie in with the completion of the road projects. But this is not fair for the residents of King Tai Estate because intake has already begun. So I think these facilities should be completed in tandem with the completion of the intake of the population to King Tai Court. Of course, we all hope that there will be seamless, completion. I can only say that the completion of these projects are too late. For the Kowloon East residents and the Wong Tai Sin residents, there had always been this demand for open space for a long time. The Deputy Director gave various reasons, but I would like to want you to ensure that you will ensure that the completion will not be later than the second quarter of 2020. You will bear in mind that you need to go to the PWSC and the FC, and there would possibly be delays. So I'd like to ask the Director what measures or methods do you have to ensure that the project will be completed by the second quarter of 2020. Mr. Pan was correct in saying that intake is beginning already for King Tai Court. For Choi Yi Court, again, population intake will start soon. So in future, will you review this case? Otherwise, whether it's HOS or PRH estates, the pioneers will have to, become pioneers. Next, I'd like to talk about the transport network. For King Tai Court and the other, estates nearby, there's always been traffic. There are very often traffic congestion. So when different departments discuss this, have discussions regarding this development, what mitigating measures do you have to relieve the traffic congestion there? And when the project is completed, or even before that, what measures do you have to relieve the traffic congestion in the area and eliminate the gridlock? And thirdly, you say the project will be built by the housing department. Upon completion, will they be, handed over to the LCST for management? If they were to be managed by the LCST for the Choi Wan estate residents, if they want another exit, how can they, make the application to the government? Since there is only one exit and entrance to the estate, how are you going to improve on that? Well, thank you for the question. Regarding the transport network, when the transport network in the vicinity is completed, suddenly the traffic congestion will be relieved. I'll ask Ms. Wong, the Deputy Director, to further elaborate. Regarding the timetable, if we could have a seamless, handover, it would be best. But for the Kai Tak development area, the pedestrian and vehicular, facilities would require time for completion. So I think this project should be able to tie in with the completion of those projects. For some of our works, we can only move on to the site to start our works upon completion of the other projects. Regarding the facilities to be handed over to the LCST for management, details such as entrance to the facility and so on, I'll defer to my colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Orr, for your question. As we've said earlier, before we plan the open space, we've actually worked closely with the Transport Department and then the CETD. So they will need to complete the road networks before we start the works on the open space, because we don't want to, get into the way of the roadwork projects. We are aware that there is traffic congestion in the area, so we will only start our project upon the completion of those road projects. Well, I hope you'll give us a written reply regarding what short-term measures you will adopt to ensure that there will not be further delays. And I understand you have a tight schedule, but please give me a written reply. Next, Mr. Kwok Wai Keung. Thank you. Only when you have large-scale PRH estates do we have such large open space. But right now, other than building King Tai Court, you're going to build a very large open space there. And this is rather rare. Previously, the Housing Department, it would be it's very rare that the work is entrusted to the housing department. But anyway, I hope the project will be completed as soon as possible so that the Kai Phong can enjoy the facilities. Subject to the constraint, you're able to re-provision the football and basketball courts and to ensure that they are up to standards. While my question is that why is it that the pet corner is segregated from the other facilities? Of course, there are various reasons for that. But when people take the pets, when the pet owners go to the open, they also like to enjoy the open space. But if you provide the pet corner in that location, it would really mean that they won't be able to enjoy the facilities in the open space. Why wouldn't you put the pet corner along the jogging trail? The car park in King Fuk Street is already there. What you tell us in the paper is that, are you saying that this is part of your project, or would there be enhancements to be carried out for that car park? And if that's the case, how can you ensure that those who go to the open space can use the car parks there? Because I've just checked this. Checked that the site is mainly used for the parking of trucks and industrial vehicles rather than private vehicles. Thank you for the questions. Regarding the pet corner, I'll ask Doris to answer the question. On the provision of car parks, they are provided in a light of the demand from the district. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Regarding the pet corner, the main reason for the provision is that we want people to be able to bring their pets there without passing through the open space and go directly to the pet corner. We've really consulted the district court regarding the design, and we already have arrived at a consensus. For the other users of the open space and for those people who take along pets to the area, they would both be able to use and to go to the open space. We just want to provide a segregation, but people can go through East Kai Tak and via Chakpo Street. They can go there directly. So for people who are pet owners and those who don't take pets along to the open space can both go there. For the areas shaded green are the car parks at the open space. They are already there. We just want to renovate these car park areas. For King Puk Street, the section of the road within the open space, they are now closed off already. In future, they will become part of the open space. Chairman, Madam Chair, do I have 4 minutes or 4 minutes? Several members have yet to speak, but we have 2 more items on the agenda today. So I'd like to ask members to put up your hand if you want to ask questions. Otherwise, I will draw a line here.
Dr. Edward Yu, Dr. Junius Ho, and myself. Dr. Yu, I have 2 questions. First of all, in the layout plan and underneath the blue area or the footbridge, there's a triangular area. How do you intend to use that area? You need to interface with the CDD on the footbridge and crossing, and there are a number of interfacing issues. I'd like to know why the project was given to the housing department. It's not related to King Tai Court at all. These are 2 separate contracts, right? Thank you very much. The intake for King Tai Court has been completed. But back then we consulted the District Council on King Tai Court and the adjoining district open space together. That way we could meet the development timeline, and we approved the proposal for a park. Will it be returned to the CEDD even though these two projects are completely irrelevant? The HA was entrusted by the government to complete this project, and after intake is completed, it would be returned to the LCSD for daily operation. If you pass it back to the CEDD, if you build the entire site using a single contract, you can shorten the construction time by at least 9 months. The CEDD project did not cover such works. So if they are to conduct such works, they have to conduct another round of tendering. So we won't be able to save any time anyway. What about the triangular area? Mr. Dominic Wong. The triangular area is located under the footbridge. The triangular area refers to the space under the footbridge. In the artist's impression, I see two small houses or huts, and would you consider that? So that is the exit of the tunnel of the CDD. It doesn't belong to us. So can the CDD tell us how they intend to use that space? We don't have anyone from the CDD today. Dr. Junius Ho, 4 minutes. I have a question for Mr. Kenneth Leung, the Chief Civil Engineer. Can the pet corner be enlarged? It's located next to a green stretch, and it can be connected to the green stretch along the western and southern sides of the soccer pitch. The pet corner currently looks very small. You should come up with more complete facilities. I think pet owners would appreciate it because there's a lack of such facilities in the district. You should come up with a pet corner of bigger scope. You only have about 15 parking lots at the moment. Since you are working on it anyway, can you introduce more parking facilities? We have a lot of people visiting, so hopefully you can do something. Deputy Director, thank you very much. Doris and Dominic can offer the details, but in a gist, we would consider the proposals as appropriate. Mrs. Fogg? For the pet corner, the stretch in green is currently an excess. If it's incorporated, the excess arrangement might be affected. If excess is not affected, and with the support of District Council, we would be happy to explore other options. And often parks nowadays have comprehensive facilities, and this is about animal rights. The pet corner proposed is very small, and the green stretch is just for landscapes and planters. If there's a walking pathway allowing owners to walk their dogs, it would be great. And to the south, it would be better to convert it into a pet garden, because dogs are not allowed in ordinary parks. I believe there will be a lot of a lot of pet owners in the area, and hopefully you can think this through. On the parking lots, Mr. Wong, the number of parking lots serve to reprovision existing parking lots, and the LCSD has no plans to introduce even more lots. You can see that there isn't much empty space, and it's already crowded. Is there a basement to the sports center? What would be the arrangements at the basement? Deputy Director. The sports center is an existing facility. Therefore, we cannot introduce a basement car park. Mr. Issue followed by myself. Thank you. For the reprovisioning of soccer pitch and basketball courts, in terms of quantity, are you going to compensate them one-to-one? We have more and more South Asian ethnic minorities in Hong Kong, and they play cricket. For these new leisure and sport facilities, are we going to consider their needs? For example, can cricket markings be added to one of the basketball courts? As for the reprovisioning ratio, I would ask Dominic to give more. As for the introduction of cricket facilities, Doris, please. Mr. Wong. Right now, we will reprovision the one soccer pitch and 4 basketball courts on a 1-to-1 ratio. However, the past dimensions were not up to standard, so the new courts and pitch would be larger than the existing ones. As for whether cricket markings and facilities can be added, I think this is something we have to look at with the housing department. Apart from markings, we also need fencing, and we'll see whether they can be added. The 4 basketball courts might be full at the same time, and we have to ensure user safety and whether fences can be installed. Can you let us know whether this is feasible after the meeting? We will consider members' views and see whether it's feasible, and we'll report to members next time. Right now, has the housing department never introduced cricket markings on a sport venue? As I remember, we never incorporated cricket facilities. What about Mrs. Fogg from the LCSD? We have courts and we are able to fence them. And safety is something we have to think about. So there are plans in place. Please let us know afterwards whether this is feasible. Thank you. Mr. Jeremy Tam, followed by myself. Thank you. I just have a quick question. Some residents of Sampo Kong told me that the entire Sampo Kong has no swings for their kids. None of the parks have any swings. So can you introduce swings in your plans, Mrs. Fogg? We will have slides and swings in the venue, but for the specific facilities, I think we have to wait till the procurement stage. So there would be swings, right? All right. I think the resident would be happy because he or she could not find any swings in the entire Sampo Kong. I wrote to the government or the LCSD, and the reply was that no LCSD park has any swings in Sampo Kong. So I have no further questions. Thank you. Some members asked about the pet corner. For the entrances to the park, would there be a separate entrance for the pet corner? Does it mean that users have to use other entrances in order to reach the corner? What about the areas in light green? Are there, do they represent access? Pets are not allowed in LCSD parks. So would the pets be able to go on those access? Mrs. Fox said animals have to be separated. We are not talking about freaks. We are just they are just animals. For someone living in Choi Yi Garden or Rhythm Garden, if they are to walk their dogs, they have to go on the roads and footpaths. You are proposing a pet corner, but do you really welcome animals? Mrs. Fogg? Thank you. There is a separate access for the pet corner at Chatpo Street via the footpath. The LCSD remains open in the provision of a pet garden. In terms of District Council consultation, they felt that facilities can be built into the park, and we welcome the suggestion. Of course, further discussion at the District Council would be needed. Mrs. Fogg, you said you remain open, but I think you should adopt an open mentality as well. You talk about separating animals. We are concerned about this because if the pet corner is inconvenient to access, people would not go there. You know, by the time they reach there, their dogs will be tired, so it becomes meaningless. So this is a stupid arrangement. Or people might have to drive their pets to the pet corner. So if that's the case, the pet corner would be meaningless. For the detailed design, we can sit down with the LCSD on how we can enhance the arrangement between pets and humans. Please don't give the impression that you are trying to separate humans and pets in your designs. Do we agree with submitting this item to the FC for discussion? All right.
Mr. Jonas Ho, follow-up question. I'm sorry we have two more items yet on the agenda, and members may have more questions to ask. Do we need to move and motion? I heard the director saying that they will consider, Mr. Ho, if you'd like to move any motion, that would be your decision. But I want to but they've already promised that they will provide us with information at the PWSC meeting. If you're still not satisfied, then you can move a motion at the PWSC meeting. So if the director doesn't want any delays, then they should provide us with as detailed information as possible. I'm sorry. Can we now ask the officials for the next item to join us? Regarding the car parks, could you consider providing, car parks underground, within the ball courts? If it is not, cannot be done, underneath the sports center. We'll see whether we can provide for more car parks at the existing location, but there are constraints and difficulties. I'm sorry, we've already overrun, so we need to move on to the next item. The next item is the progress of the total maintenance scheme. We'll invite the officials to join us for this item. I'm sorry, colleagues, we've overran a bit for the first item. Since we have overrun and we have two more items, and I'm sure members will still have many questions yet to ask. So from now on, I'm going to exercise very strict time management. So I hope members will bear with me. The list of officials present are already on the attendance list, so I shan't introduce them one by one. To walk us through, to make a PowerPoint presentation, we have the director. I'll say a few words and then I'll defer to my colleagues. So please be as brief as you can. We are running out of time. Thank you. In 2006, HA launched a 5-year TMS to proactively inspect the in-flat conditions of the rental units in PRH estates. The scheme is already into the 11th year, and we've already completed 2 5-year, schemes, and about 80% of the tenants interview expressed satisfaction with the project. Nick, and now I'll ask the Assistant Director, Mr. Look, to walk members through the details. Mr. Look, thank you. The paper today is about our total management scheme. We launched the total management scheme, maintenance scheme in 2006. We will proactively inspect, the in-flat conditions of PRH units and TPS estates with an age of 10 years or above, and to provide comprehensive repair services. For estates 10 to 30 years old, we will conduct such TMS once every 10 years. For estates more than 30 years old, we will implement the scheme once every 5 years. We want to provide, speedy, maintenance service for the kai fongs. So this is both maintenance and service. We want to be as customer focused as possible. We abide by 3 major principles. That is proactive inspection, and also prompt response to tenants' requests, and enhanced publicity and education. We will conduct proactive in-flat inspections to look at the ceilings, the gates, and so on. We will arrange for one-stop maintenance services. What we can do is to carry out minor repairs, which will be done on the spot. For more complicated repair works, we will rely on the PDA to issue works orders to the contractors to follow up. On education, within the PRH estates, we will have mobile, maintenance booths, and we have, display boards to inform the tenants about the maintenance services. We also have a maintenance hotline manned by designated staff to deal with inquiries, complaints, and orders for inspection and maintenance. In order to provide convenience to the tenants and to minimize the nuisance, we would require the contractors to provide special assistance for the tenants, especially those who are elderly or handicapped. We will carry out protective measures. For example, we will use dust screens and tarpaulin sheets for spalling and tiling repair works. Contractors will provide a vacuum cleaner and use a tarpaulin sheet to protect the furniture on the floor, and proper cleansing will be completed. After completion will also be conducted. Since we carried out the TMS in 2008, for the first and second phases, they were completed in both 2011 and 2016 respectively. We've now just launched the third 5-year TMS scheme. There are 4 major maintenance projects, including concrete, water seepage, the doors, and so on. And starting from the first phase, there were 140,000 orders. In the second phase, it was down to 80,000. So one can see that the quality of the units have greatly improved because of the TMS scheme. Regarding customer satisfaction, we engaged a consultant to conduct a survey for us. And in the second TMS 5-year TMS phase, overall satisfaction level was about 80%. Going forward, the TMS scheme will tie in with our in-flat maintenance service. We will continue to monitor the effectiveness of the scheme, and we're here today to listen to members' comments and suggestions so that we can further improve the TMS scheme. Several members have put up their hands, Au Chong Sing, Zheng Guozhen, and Xiu Chungyim, Mr. Au. Regarding the total maintenance scheme, according to the residents in the district, they are on the whole very satisfied with the service, because the housing department had provided for a series of arrangements for maintenance. But we've also heard of some contractors who have not behaved properly. So under the TMS, how are you going to monitor the performance of the contractors? And when the contracts are about to be renewed, or when they bid for new contracts, will their performance be one of the considerations? And another problem is that would be that upon the completion of the maintenance works, the tenants will be asked to take delivery of the works. I think you have the service ambassadors who are at the front line to deal with the tenants' demand. So has the department consider elevating the work of these ambassadors so they can also, and thirdly, the housing department will conduct spot checks to ensure the quality of the works. So for the department, over the last 5 years when you launched the TMS, how many spot checks have you conducted? And in the course of such checks, what problems have you identified which could be improved later on? Deputy Director. Thank you, Mr. Au, for your questions. Let me answer your first and second question, and I'll defer to my colleagues to answer the third one. Our department attaches a lot of importance to the performance of our contractors. As far as monitoring the performance of the contractors are concerned, first of all, we will require the contractor to, before the start of any project, provide for a mock-up as standard for for our taking delivery of the works. And we have guidelines for our frontline staff as to how they would accept delivery of the works. Regarding performance of the contractors, if during the first 5 quarters, so long as the rating is less than 60% in any of those quarters, that we will cut down the 3-year contract to 2. And during those 5 quarters, again, the rating cannot be less than 65 out of 100. Over the last 5 years, there have been 5 district maintenance contracts for which the contract period was reduced from 3 to 2 years. Regarding the taking delivery of the works, let me clarify that, first of all, the tenants have to sign and take delivery of the works. This is not a certification of the standard of the works, but rather to acknowledge the contractor has completed the work so that we can pay the contractors. The member is correct. The task of our ambassador is responsible for taking delivery of the works to ensure that the quality of the works are up to the contract requirements. I also like to add that for some of the important works, our ambassador would need to conduct, on-site inspection before they take delivery of the works. For some, they may need to take on-site inspection, but they will need to take random checks. And for the third question, I'll defer to the Assistant Director, Mr. Look. Regarding the spot checks, depending on how many works are done in a particular estate, roughly speaking, we will conduct such checks once 2 or 3 months. If in a particular estate we identify some problems with the works, we would follow up with inspection to see whether to ensure that quality is ensured. Mr. Cheng Kwok-Kwan. The scheme has been implemented for so many years and is very popular with the residents. As the director has told us, if the satisfaction level is 80%, this is already quite an achievement. But I understand that some tenants, there are typically 2 reasons for dissatisfaction. First of all, the contractors are not able to complete the works according to the contract, and they have to make appointments with different types of workers to do the works. For these 2 major types of complaints, does the department think that there are already improvements made, or do you have any measures to improve on the situation? And for these renovation works or maintenance works, the volume of work is quite large. So for the HA, have you compared with the cost of such works, compare with those in the private market to find out, for example, whether you're paying more than the market rate? Mr. Look, I'll ask my colleague to answer the first question, and I'll take the second one regarding whether the workers will carry out the works on time. We do have, targets for the contractors. If the service of the contractors does not meet the standard, we will, give them demerit points. And after they've been given demerit points, the chances of winning our bids in future will be reduced. And if the rating is reduced, then it's possible that their contracts will not be renewed. Regarding the different types of works, different workers specialize in work relating to the doors or the floors and so on. During the work stage, we will try our best to ensure that workers doing different types of maintenance works will work on within the unit at the same time without getting into each other's way.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about the effectiveness and costs. It has been implemented for 11 years, and we have completed 2 cycles for each flat. TMS will cost $1.2 to $1.6 thousand. So we can see that the scheme has been cost effective. As you know, for various home repairs like drainage or other issues, and you would have to pay $500 for a simple repair. So in each cycle, we spend 12 to 1600, so we can see that the scheme has been cost effective. Mr. Kwai Keung, followed by Dr. Edward Yu. Thank you. We have about 750,000 public housing units, and more than half of them are 20 years old or more. And proper maintenance will ensure living quality for the tenants. But we have two areas of concern. For the 20-odd estates to be redeveloped, the first batch of residents would be reprovisioned by 2024 in Wafu Estate, but there are no updates on the other estates. But without a redevelopment plan, then proper maintenance is needed. For the older estates that would be reprovisioned or redeveloped, how would the government conduct proper maintenance and repair? Or would it be the case that maintenance would be useless since they are too old? As for the issue of windows, for some older estates, they use a fenced windows, and they would be installed in bathrooms and kitchens, and sometimes elderly residents might slip. So would the government replace this type of windows in order to avoid slips for the residents? Thank you very much. For the older estates that might be redeveloped, how do we carry out TMS? And I'll hand over to my colleagues to talk about the windows. After we complete a survey, and if the estate would be retained for another 5 years, we would carry out maintenance and repair just like other housing estates. You announce more than 20 housing estates with redevelopment potential. And when you conduct repair and maintenance, will you invest more resources? When we carry out surveys, we would assess the actual needs of each housing estate and carry out work accordingly. So the answer is yes, we will step up our work. Our housing estates continue to age. For PRH estates age 30 or above, and in 2011 they make up 24%, and by 2013 they made up 40% of our total. So it's important to maintain these buildings, or else when the problems surface, we would have to spend even more. Assistant Director, can you talk about the windows? Mr. Kwok talked about the security fences in the balconies. If residents wish to install windows, they can make applications to the housing department. But after the windows are installed, they have to be responsible for the maintenance. Dr. Yu Zhongyim, followed by Dr. Chen Zhongtai. I think the department can be more honest. For a lot of old housing estates, the maintenance costs are very high. According to a report, for Wafu Estate, the maintenance cost per year per household reached $20,000, and for Soho Estate it's $46,000. So is the government the government should convince the public that these estates should be redeveloped, and these figures are very different from those you quoted. And I'm referring to paper 2057/07-08. And in December 2012, Wen Weibo said that the maintenance of housing estates were not satisfactory in 90% of the cases, and a lot of items required follow-up. And there's room for improvement in these housing estates. So I think you should not just tell us the good news. I think you should also tell us about your difficulties so that we know how to help you. There's a big discrepancy. For the higher maintenance costs, they do not fall under the TMS. For buildings close to 40 years old, the housing department will conduct a holistic structural check, and we will suggest rehabilitation works, and the cost will certainly be higher because they are related to the building structure. As for the 133 units, for the 90% dissatisfaction rate, we actually carried out more than 2,000 items. The percentage was 89%, but when you look at the total number of maintenance items, it was only 13 to 14%. Dr. Yu, my point is you can tell us about your challenges. You should give us more details on the cases of dissatisfaction. Now you're only giving us the good news, and people would think that the housing department does not need any funds. I think this is certainly not the reality. So can you provide more information to LegCo so that we know your difficulties? You cited 13%, and it shows that after maintenance, you still had to follow up on some of the units. So what have been the difficulties according to the audit report? On average, 3 items required follow-up. So, Deputy Director, for each unit, we carry out more than 20 items or works, and it's not surprising that 2 or 3 of them would require follow-up. So, where do our challenges lie? In existing units, some works are relating to drainage and involves a smaller area. So sometimes the works might be a little bit substandard or have workmanship problems. But we would not rest on our laurels, and we are trying to achieve an 80% satisfaction rate. So, Deputy Director, can you give us more information on the challenges you face under TMS? Dr. Yu cited maintenance costs of tens of thousands of dollars, and there's a very big discrepancy. The maintenance costs he cited correspond to the structural maintenance conducted at older estates, right? Can you give us more information? Dr. Chen Xiongtai, thank you. I understand that the figures might be confusing because even the names of the schemes sound very similar. And the TMS applies to older housing estates that require maintenance, but I agree completely with Dr. Yu. In the government's paper, and a lot of claims are not substantiated by facts. The government said that the TMS is preventative in nature and that there will be studies, but the rates of conducting studies has been low, as we suggested before. And the paper does not explain how TMS can prevent problems. And by the time problems appear, well, there's a lack of figures. I read the audit report myself. And the report mentioned poor maintenance works by contractors, and that's why households have to face new repairs in a matter of weeks. Can the government give us specific figures or information on the contractual period of the contractors, your supervision mechanism, etc.? There's no mentioning on the scoring system. You only said you will monitor the problems, but we all know the problems have to do with the contractors. Well, I think it's impossible for us to discuss this paper as it is. With regards to the inadequate studies, I can offer more information. In our first cycle, the inspection rate was 77%, and in the second cycle it was 78.5%. So these were very high percentages. And if residents did not find our work useful, they would not care about our work. So the inspection rates were satisfactory. And we already started work in 12 estates with more than 60,000 flats, and the rate was 85%. As for the monitoring, first of all, we do not adopt the lowest bid system. We have an integrated tendering system, so we would assess the contractor's track record. If they have a poor track record, they would have a lower chance of winning. After the works begin, we would carry out spot checks and monitor their works. As I said, for the first 5 quarters, if they fall under 60% in one of those 5 quarters, their contracts will be shortened from 3 years to 2. If the average score in the first 5 quarters is lower than 65%, we would also cut their contract from 3 years to 2. So in 4 of the contracts, well, 4 of the contracts have been cut from 3 years to 2. This is exactly what I'm looking for. Can the Deputy Director give us more information after the meeting? Yes. If we have no further questions, that's all for this item. So next item.
下一個議程呢，就係得各位強潘兆平。2016-17年度香港房委員會嘅環保工作
Performance of environmental targets and initiatives of the Hong Kong Housing Society in 2016 and 17. Again, I will not introduce the officials one by one.
文件。
So after the officials are seated, they will walk us through the paper. Deputy Director, are you going to walk us through the paper? I'll make a start. Now, the paper is to brief members on the work that we've done, and in 1999 we established the policy to promote healthy living and a green environment, and we also developed a strategic framework. In 2016-17 we've worked out our 42 targets covering 6 aspects, including energy efficiency, water conservation, greening, waste management, and so on. Of the 42 targets, 39 have already met the target. There are 3 targets, including recycling, paper recycling within the estates, recycling of plastic bottles and old clothing. We've not been able to meet the target. And I'm going to talk about these 3 items. Regarding the recycling of waste paper, we collected 20,000 tons of recycled water, which is 95.2% of the target. The volume of waste paper recycled has gone down because people's habit of reading newspapers have changed. And secondly, regarding the recycling of plastic bottles, last year we collected about 13,000 odd tons, which is 77.8% of the target. The drop in the collection of recycled plastic bottle is due to the fact that the value is the number of plastic bottles recycled has gone down due to the falling prices of the plastics. Thirdly, in some estates, the recycling of old clothing has gone down. It was 901 tons. Compared with the 950 targets, it's 94.8% target. And so this is due to the fact that we are encouraging waste reduction. Since the residents are making better use of the clothing, as a result, the volume of recycled clothing have gone down. Are you going through the PowerPoints now? No, not yet. Although we're not able to meet those 3 targets, but we have actively promoted, waste reduction and source, and we emphasize on the 3 R's: reduce, recycle, and reuse. As a result, the residents are able to cut down on the production of waste. So we will continue to have progressive targets to meet the target of sustainable development. With that, I'll defer to our senior housing manager to brief members on our targets and initiatives. First of all, the background. In order to improve the living environment, in 1999, we established the Environmental Policy 1999 to promote healthy living and a green environment. We also not only comply with the relevant legislation regulations, but also developed a strategic framework and implemented environmental management strategies for the promotion of sustainable development on multiple fronts. In order to respond to the concern of the community and to mitigate the impact on the environment, we've incorporated environmental initiatives throughout the planning and design, construction and demolition, marketing and estate management activities, and developed relevant green procurement policies. Ms. Lam, I think we already have a copy of your PowerPoint, so you don't need to read them out one verbatim. Could you simply, give us a summary of that? Regarding progress in 2016-2017, we set 42 targets covering 6 aspects. Let me talk about the initiatives we carried out in the new PRH estates. The 6 targets are energy efficiency, water conservation, and so on. Regarding energy efficiency, in the new PRH estates, in the public areas, the building service installation regarding the building service installation, the average electricity consumption did not exceed 24 kilowatts per hour per annum. We've also installed energy efficient equipment, and we also have green design for building services equipment. Water conservation, we use 6-liter single or dual flush water closet suite to reduce water consumption. We also provide zero irrigation system or other types of root zone irrigation system. Regarding greening, for every 15 PRH units, we met the target of planting 1 tree per 15 public housing units. So we for all new public housing developments, we achieve at least 20% greening average, and for sites larger than 2 hectares, more than 30%. We also have in the new PRH estates, we arrange for action seedling programs, and for waste management, we have used more green materials and components, including pulverized fuel ash, ground granulated blast, furnace slag, and so on. And we also would use renewable timber. If contractors need to use timber, we would ensure that they use timber from sustainable forest sources. On control of hazardous materials, when we need to carry out demolition works, we will be very careful in demolishing materials containing asbestos. On enhancing environmental awareness, we would require contractors to use environmentally friendly equipment. Environmental initiatives in existing housing estates, energy efficiency. We conducted all carbon audit in 14 PRH blocks to monitor carbon emission. On water conservation, we also evaluated the effectiveness of the rainwater harvesting systems on all commercial centers and PRH estates where the system was installed. Greening, we promote greening activities such as tree planting days and so on, and we've also launched we have organized tree planting days and greening activities, and we completed landscape improvement programs in different PRH estates. And for waste management, we promote waste separation, and we also have collection centers in PRH estates to collect recyclables. And we have, for waste management, we collect an average of 0.55 kilometers per person per day, which is within the 0.7 kilogram target. We also recycle, collect glass bottles and rechargeable batteries. Control of hazardous materials. In the existing PRH estates, we will inspect the asbestos materials to ensure that they are in good condition. And if maintenance works have to be carried out, we would engage registered contractors to do the work. On enhancement of environmental awareness, we work with green groups. We have conducted the Green Delight in estate programs to promote environmental awareness among the residents. We also conduct surveys about the tenants' environmental awareness. We also organize different activities to promote environmental protection and so on. Environmental initiatives in our own offices. Energy efficiency. All our offices now consume a total of 34,850,000 kilowatt hour of electricity, meeting the target not more than 35.9 million kilowatt hours. We've also consumed 11,300 cubic meters of water, again within target. For greening, we participated in tree planting day to promote staff involvement in greening activities, and we also consume 134,000 reams of paper. That is again within target. We collected 81.6 kilograms of wastewater per staff, and also for We only use environmental friendly paper for printed materials. Hazardous materials, we also control hazardous materials to minimize harm to the environment by collecting all disposable mercury containing lamps in our headquarters. We will continue to strengthen training and publicity. We organize different seminars and campaigns, and we've also set out the various, targets for sustainable development. Our members are already expressing their dissatisfaction. Next time, if you were to give a briefing to us the next time, please be as concise as you can. If you already have a PowerPoint for us, you don't need to go through them verbatim again. 郭偉強、潘少平、姚松炎. Thank you. All these environmental targets and initiatives are just routine measures, and I don't think you need to walk through them in such details. To be honest, no matter how much you do, you work on these, it's not enough because people are more and more, environmentally conscious. So for the materials you have collected, such as waste paper, aluminium cans, plastic bottles, and old clothing, where do they go to where after they've been collected? Is it that nobody would collect the plastic bottles and they end up in our landfills? And secondly, does the collection of these recyclables generate revenue for the department? And for those living in the PRH estates, they make up about 1/3 of our total population. So we're very concerned whether in these PRH estates you could do more. That is, do you only focus on aluminium cans, waste paper, and plastic bottles? Could you be more refined or detailed? Experience in other countries shows that so long as you have the space, you can have, finer, categorization. Even for a plastic pump, you can break them down into different components to be recycled, so that the whole recycling process could be more refined. So if the estates have the space and the ability, they could do this. It's not like private tenement buildings where the tenants cannot do that. So would you consider doing that rather than giving us such routine, reports each and every time? Well, thank you for the suggestion by the member. Regarding whether we could be more refined in the recycling of materials other than waste paper and plastic bottles. We also, collect, glass bottles. Perhaps I can ask Mr. Choi Wei Tong to elaborate further on that. Assistant Director, Mr. Choi. Other than paper, plastic bottles, aluminium cans, and glass bottles, we would also, collect, rechargeable batteries and fluorescent lamps. It is now very popular that within the PRH estates, we will require for collection vans to come and collect the recyclables within the estates. Mr. Kwok suggests whether or not for a single bottle we can break them down into separate components. Right now we follow the approach of the EPD.
We will complement the government's work as to whether the Buildings Department or Housing Authority would receive any revenue. We are now working with recyclers through management companies or contractors, and after they collect the trash, or they would deal with it, and the government or HA does not make any money. And the recyclers would come to the housing estates. Would the management companies make any money? And charges would be incurred for the recyclers Mr. Boon Siu-ping, followed by Dr. Chen Chung-tai. Thank you. We are concerned whether the recyclables would end up in our landfills. How can we make sure that they won't end up there? And the government should follow up on that. You said DHA has 42 items in which 39 of them meet the mark and 3 of them fail, including waste paper. You try to identify reasons and you said that it might be due to a change in the habit of reading newspapers. So you have to set up new targets. I don't know how you would go about it, whether you would lower your targets or implement new measures in order to achieve the new targets. That's my first question. Secondly, you said DHA will continue to use green materials, and that is items or paragraphs 10 to 12 in your paper. DHA uses green materials extensively. So how would you establish the proportion of green materials used? Thank you very much. As for the new indicators, we will refer to our existing work and estimates of our future work. And I'll invite Mr. Choi to give us the details. Of the 3 recyclables in which the target cannot be met, including paper and used clothes, the recycled amounts in the past 3 years have been stable. In our 2018 to 19 target, we will lower the target slightly by 5%. For plastic bottles, we can see an overall decline in recycling all over Hong Kong. So we only see it happening for a short time, and last year we met the targets completely, so we will observe for another year whether before deciding whether the targets have to be redrawn. As for green materials, what would be the proportion of green versus non-green materials you use? Deputy Director. My colleagues will look up the information and report to members later. If the information is not available now, can you give them later? I will see whether we can offer any information now. Please offer the information afterwards. Dr. Chen Chung-tai, followed by Dr. Edward Yu. Thank you. I want to ask about the figures. In 2.3 plastic bottles, and from 2016 to 17, we had a decline of almost 1,000 tons. When we look at the trend, it's impossible that people use 1,000 less tons. So where did the plastic bottles end up? According to the figure, it's they represent the recycled amount. What about the 1,000 odd tons of plastic bottles which could not be recycled? Mr. Choi. And less recyclers came to collect the bottles. So in some housing estates, there's an accumulation of plastic bottles. And when the prices go up again, the recyclers would come back. So the figures might have a big difference. So what would happen to the remaining bottles? Some of them might be dumped as trash. We will not rule out this possibility. It might be dumped by someone else, not us. terms of waste sorting or recycling, sometimes the public does want to do something, but this is how the plastic bottles which they have sorted would end up. We are talking about 1,000 tons. Some of them might be accumulated in the housing estates, but the majority have ended up in landfills, I believe. So for waste, paper, aluminium cans, used clothes, and plastic bottles, I think the prices of waste paper and aluminium cans are relatively stable. But for old clothes and plastic bottles, there have been price fluctuations, so recyclers might not have the initiative to collect them. So what will the government do to the accumulated recyclables? If the prices do not go up, they would pile up at your housing estates. Mr. Choi? We have been monitoring the trends, and from the end of last year to early this year, we realized that recyclers no longer came for our aluminum cans, and there was a pileup. And we are working with the EPD to see how we can encourage recyclers to collect the plastic bottles, and the EPD is working on that. Some plastic bottles might end up in landfills. We have no information indicating that our contractors have dumped these plastic bottles. I think you should have a contingency plan. I don't think this makes sense. Dr. Edward Yu, followed by Dr. Junius Ho. Thank you. On the environmental greening, you said you would only work on newly designed housing estates, but I think they should be implemented in existing estates as well. You might be aware of my 4.0 plan. At existing estates, if you can introduce plant nurseries and promote recycling, then you can reduce the amounts of trash. In 1 or 2 estates, NGOs are working on the relevant tasks with your approval. Will you promote this? Will you extend these to all your housing estates? To introduce nurseries in existing estates, we have to see whether space is available, and we have to see whether we have to consult the EMACs as well. If they agree and if space permitting, we will introduce plant nurseries, and they have been implemented in some estates. As to whether they can be extended to all housing estates in Hong Kong, we have to consult the EMACs. With their approval, we will go ahead. All along, we have greening plans and landscape designs. So the work is ongoing. Deputy Director, at existing estates, we do have landscape improvement plans. Over the past year, we have completed the works in 20 estates, and in other estates, planters and landscapes have been incorporated on the slopes. So you can see the percentage is extremely low. The approach you said requires the agreement of the EMACs, and there's a lack of initiative. If you allow NGOs to operate in the housing estates and promote food waste recycling, then you can convince the EMAX. You do not have to wait for the EMAX to make a move, and this has proved to be effective. Can you provide some space in each housing estate for NGOs to promote food waste or leftover food waste recycling or leftover collection? Mr. Choi, as I said, for nurseries, space is needed. We have been communicating with EMAX what greening measures can be incorporated in the estates. On whether NGOs would be allowed to promote food waste recycling in estates, according to the government policy, we would first focus on food waste from commercial industrial facilities. However, that said, we are constantly carrying out education and publicity, and we have a scheme to promote food waste recycling at housing estates. Can you offer the space for NGOs to operate greening related work? Mr. Choi. Right now we will talk to NGOs and we will try to assess the background or work of the NGOs. Dr. Junius Ho, followed by Ms. Eddie Xu. Chairman. DHA established 42 targets and 39 of them were met, so I find this satisfactory. And with such positive experience, have you tried to extend your experience to other housing estates? I hope you would share your positive experience. And in item 25, the HA's target is 0.7 kilogram per person, and you are trying to lower it to 0.55 kilogram. So the achievement is 21%, which is very encouraging. In Hong Kong, the average amount of trash per person is 1.35 kilogram, and the target is 0.7%, which is far lower than the Hong Kong average, and you are trying to lower it further to about 0.5. I'd like to know why you have been so successful in this. Is it that poor people would not have any trash to generate? This is a landmark achievement which we should look into further. And according to our 2013 to 2022 waste reduction targets, we want to set the target at 0.8 per person, but now we are already achieving 0.5 kilogram. What is the denominator? Does this target apply to 150 housing estates in Hong Kong? How did you come up with this base?
Deputy Director. Well, thank you for the question. I'll ask Mr. Choi to give you the total number of estates. Now, Mr. Ho asked why we're able to achieve such a desirable target and that the domestic waste produced per unit is so small. In 1999, after we've set the strategy, every year we need to set a target and implement the initiatives. After the efforts of more than 10 years, we've been able to achieve this target. We've also worked with green groups, and every year we would promote environmental awareness among the estates and to also make suggestions on waste reduction. So by working together with them, we can enhance the environmental awareness of the residents. And I mean, the figure was not so low previously. So we've been able to achieve this number after many years of effort. I think this figure covers all the PRH estates. Mr. Choi. Well, this number, if members would go to the footnote in Annex 5, the domestic waste includes waste produced by the domestic units and the waste collected in the common areas, which is slightly different from the method calculation adopted by the EPD. I don't have all the numbers, but I can say that this is the average number. Why, I'll have to extend the meeting by 5 more minutes so that Mr. Ejiji can also ask his question. Thank you. 3 simple questions. First of all, in your briefing, you said that you've also used solar energy. Now, the 2 power companies will have a new scheme. So, do you have any plan to promote, waste to energy in the PRH estates on the conservation of water? Earlier on, the WSD has talked to us about the distribution of the interceptors. It's not yet 100% done in the PRH estates. Can you work with the WSD so that you can come up with the target of 100% of all tenants being equipped with the interceptors? Thirdly, in 14 typical PRH blocks, you are conducting some carbon audit. Could you give us the data collected in the audit? Regarding generating electricity through solar panels, in our new design, if there are conditions allow, we would adopt solar panels to generate electricity. Normally, the electricity generated will be 1.5 or 2% which will go to the power grid. To enhance the volume of electricity, given that we have very limited space on rooftops, and we may not be able to do that, but our colleague can elaborate further on that. On the water interceptors, before we achieve the 100% coverage, how can we improve on that? Again, Mr. Choi can explain. Mr. Wong, regarding the solar panels, in all our new developments, if the space on rooftops allow, and if the site is suitable, namely that they're not blocked by taller buildings nearby, we would install solar panels. Like this assistant director said, the size of the rooftop is very limited. After we place the solar panels there, I think right now, at the moment, we are able to only generate about 1.5 to 2.5% of the electricity consumed. So you're able to make 2.5 in some PRH estates. What's it? You said 1.5 to 2.5 in some PRH estates. Given that the rooftop is smaller in size, in which case the number would be smaller. If the rooftop is larger in size, then if we could place more solar panels there, then the amount of electricity generated will be larger. And the electricity generated will be used in the common areas. Mr. Choi, regarding the carbon audit, which we've conducted in 14 PRH blocks, we follow the greenhouse gas emission standard to conduct the carbon audit. I don't have details of the audit. Perhaps I can provide members with details after the meeting. For how many years have you done the audit? Could you give us the data for the data collected in different years so that we can track the trend? For these 14 different blocks of PRH blocks, they all have different designs. So if If members so wish, we can certainly provide details to members after the meeting. All right? If there are no further questions, do we have any other business? If not, then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.